Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this wonderful weekend. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. It is Saturday, July 29th, 2023, about 1:05 p.m. here. California time. Latest quake shows some movement up into Alaska, northern Alaska, with a 2.3, also a 4-pointer being shown on that map as well. And also a 3.5 earthquake coming in well off the plate boundary here, across the opposite side of the world. So let's see what's going on here first with this 3.5. Pull up the EMSC model and see what they're reporting for this earthquake activity there in the region. Stand by for a second here. Pull up the world map. We got any earthquakes showing up? Goodness. No earthquakes in the last 24 hours? Something's going on here with their map, it looks like. Yeah, I would say so. Look at that. Last week, last 48 hours. How about the list of earthquakes? Maybe that's the... Well, okay, they're having an issue there at the EMSC model. I don't see anything showing up for some reason across their website. All right, we'll move on to the USGS, though. Looking at the Alaska region up here, we got, again, outside the Brooks range, a 4.0 coming in within the last hour or so. That's been followed up by a couple smaller aftershocks, if you will. It's been a little quiet up here recently across the Brooks mountain range, but looks like things filling in up there slightly today. And some movement here across the Aleutian Trench as well. Some of this activity, I believe, was from yesterday, but a handful of threes across the area today into that section of the plate boundary. Over here across the Pacific Northwest, nothing showing up here across Oregon and Washington, but it is a weekend. The folks there at the PNSN and the USGS do not really pick up on any smaller microquakes here until Monday morning. They just leave it absent. So that's why it looks like there's completely nothing going on up there. But there is. They'll get to it Monday. Unless it's above a certain threshold, preliminary data, then it will be put out. But smaller quakes do not get issued there. All right, we did have a 4.4 earthquake off the Oregon coast here earlier this morning, about 7 o'clock or so my time. This occurred just off of the Blanco fracture zone here in this little deal right here. This little, I don't even know what to call it, little trench, I guess. And it looks like we've seen a couple other smaller quakes down here into the Gorda ridges. Now, earthquake activity that does take place here along the fracture zone does add further strain across this area of Northern California as well. So we'll watch this here for maybe some slight uptick throughout the day today. Now, tremor map yesterday. Let me pull up the Cascadia tremor. Looks like that was about 69 epicenters of tremor, mostly up around the Washington area. Nothing going on down here, though, across Northern California for now. All right, the rest of California, got a little bit of movement here outside the Willows area, 3.0, coming in at about 15 kilometers deep. This here, there's the Great Valley fault, or Great Valley thrust fault system that runs along the west side of the valley. That could be associated with it, with this earthquake. We're not really seeing that fault here on the map, but there is. And with that depth right there, 15 kilometers, that would pretty much coincide with a thrust fault here across the west side of the valley, but we'll continue to watch that. Lake Almanor area, seen one yesterday and one today. A couple twos going on there in the last 24 hours. There's one earthquake there off the San Andreas Fault, the northern segment from last night. Or no, excuse me, from this morning. About 10:45 this morning at 1.8, just off the plate boundary. And there's the earthquake activity from the Walker, California area from last night, 3.1. A couple other smaller aftershocks there in the eastern crest of the Sierra Nevada mountains. And for the most part, though, Southern California here, a little spotty as we look at the microquake activity. I don't think we've seen anything above 2.5 within this area. Looks pretty quiet across that region for now. Always some small microquake activity ongoing, but there's that's about it. Texas area and a New Madrid seismic zone. Let's see what we got there. 1.9 coming in late last night in that area. Aside from that, movement across the oil fields out here in the Texas region. Across the Puerto Rico region here, looks like a lot of this here from yesterday. Not a big uptick yet today. Looks like the last was a 2.8. Also seen a 3.9 here in the U.S. Virgin Islands area. 135 kilometers deep, so we're getting a mixed bag of some surface earthquake activity and some subduction zone earthquakes. Across the Nicaragua, the Honduras, and El Salvador region. I remember watching that earthquake swarm. There's a 4.5 from last night. Looking at the globe here now, I'm not for sure how. It doesn't look like, let's see, when was this 3.5? This was just put out a couple minutes ago. So it looks like that outage or whatever is going on the EMSC page is not affecting the earthquake 3D globe. But for whatever reason it is here on their official site. Nothing showing up. Well, that's a little weird. Yeah, it definitely looks like something's going on here. There's page 1. All right. Still, I think there's something going on here with their page world map. Is that working yet? I wanted to see how many earthquakes were occurring down there into the Honduras area, but I think we're going to have to wait on that. Either way, here on the globe, we get a little glimpse of the activity. It looks like it's still continuing there with some 2s and 3s overnight and this morning. Slight migration of earthquake activity down south here, south of the area of interest. And we're seeing a little uptick here across the South America region as well. Let's see what we got here for the South America area. Looks like 4.7. That's from yesterday, though. But I do see, looks like a 4.2 coming in just a little bit further down along the plate boundary there, along the Peru Chile Trench within the last couple hours, it looks like. South Sandwich Islands area, 5.4. I believe that one was from yesterday, late last night. 133 kilometers deep, getting deeper here into the trench zones. Definitely continue to watch that for some further movement with that deeper activity. Let's see here. Across the Hawaii area, only a handful of smaller quakes up into the middle of the Pacific here. Looking at the USGS map, shows a handful of smaller quakes, mostly around Pahala and the Kilauea Volcano area, where we're still just temporarily paused for the most part, as far as the eruptive status goes there with that volcano. Western Pacific here, the last one showing up as a 5.0 into the Indonesia area, 69 kilometers deep. But as you can see here on the globe, we're getting a few more earthquakes than that, centered around the Banda Sea area and just over here across the Java Trench. Nothing big going on here, just some 3s kicking off there in the last 24 hours. There is some movement up north here from the activity yesterday along this plate boundary. It's a little bit further north than I thought it would be, but the 4.6 out here into the Indian Ocean area. I don't see it showing up here on the USGS map, but it is there on the globe. Mediterranean area, 4.1 coming into the, where is that one at? Just outside of the Klana, is that right? Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. If not, I'll brush up on that. A little bit of earthquake activity there. 3.9 being reported by the USGS, 4.1 here on the EMSC globe. But for the most part, 3s, 2s, common out there today. And the Azores looking somewhat active with a 2.7 out there. It's been off and on earthquake activity here for the past week or so in that region. Let's see. I think that's about it for earthquake activity. I'm not seeing anything major going on here. Let's see what we got for New Zealand. Some older movement quakes there from last night. But let me double check and make sure. .0 2 days ago. So a couple smaller quakes here in the last couple hours, it looks like. But that, again, that's common. I keep saying it's common because it is. It sits along a major plate boundary. That's going to be definitely very common out there. There's some of the movement there from yesterday. And this little earthquake swarm here that we were looking at last night. there outside the Jackson Bay area. Looks like that has calmed down nicely throughout the morning, at least for our morning and afternoon here. So we'll continue to watch that. It was kicking up a little bit. There was some small microquake activity in a swarm fashion. But aside from that, New Zealand, Fiji, Tonga, all this area looks pretty calm and clear for now. This is our quiet zone for today. It looks like 2.6. Indonesia just coming into the globe right now. All right, what else we got? Anything going on in the space weather world? Let's see. Still looking at Proton events here. 99% chance here. Getting bombarded with some protons here across the polar regions. Mostly here on the northern side. Looking at least a guaranteed 99% chance that that's going to continue for a little bit. Here is the update from the solarham.net site. A moderate S2 radiation storm is in progress following the large eruption off the northwest limb on Friday. So we got lower energy protons continue to move past our planet, and this may cause signal degradation of HF signals, high frequency radio signals through the polar regions, especially below 15 MHz. I'm not for sure who operates on that, but that would be, I think, shortwave radio and below, I think. The associated coronal mass ejection was directed to the northwest and is not expected to be geo-effective, but we're still getting the high energy proton particles there bombarding the planet, as the map here shows. Notice the increased amount of white speckles in the latest LASCO coronal imagery. Goodness, see if I can spit this out today. That's a pretty simple word. That's going to be these white little specks here. And I'm sure there's a lot more than that, but those are going to be the high energy protons that were directed towards the Earth. All right, looking at the solar sunspots here. Let's see what we have. Looks like we have a newer region coming around from last night. There it is today. Getting a train of sunspots here on the sun. Also one center disk, it looks like. We'll have to keep an eye on as that comes around in the coming days. Right now, I think there's probably only a couple sunspot areas worth watching. This one right here looks not super complex, but it does look like it may be trying to form a couple different cores here. We'll keep an eye on that. And potentially up here within this newer sunspot group. Definitely watch this. I don't see anything major that is going to be happening currently. It looks like we did see a little bit of C flare activity overnight. Little small M flare as well. But the overall threat looks like 99% chance for a C flare. M flare at 40 and the X flare probability at 5% chance. And of course protons will continue. Doesn't look like they've lowered at all since last night. So we'll probably continue to watch this for the next day or so as the particles continue to have an effect there in the ionosphere. 3-day forecast looks pretty calm as far as the geomagnetic forecast. We haven't really seen any coronal mass ejections that were Earth directed. They were all facing away from the Earth. And the aurora forecast looks pretty minimal for now. Space Weather Prediction Center, or Space Storm Prediction Center. There we go. A lot of prediction centers. Slight risk for some severe weather across the areas in the yellow. Tornado risk today is very limited to areas out in the east. Talking about New York City, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Boston, Washington, D.C. area. That's the 2% chance for tornado probability, so keep an eye on the sky. Main threat today looks like it's going to be some hail, roughly up into the South Dakota, North Dakota region there with that hatched area. Potentially seeing a 10% or greater probability of 2-inch diameter hail. Ouch. Some of that stuff can leave some marks there on your vehicles, so make sure you keep an eye on the sky and park your car, your vehicle, in the garage or underneath an awning. All right, have a good one, folks. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later tonight. It's a little warm out there today, about 90 right now. It's supposed to be up around 98. And I don't know. I'm ready for summer to be over, or at least cool down. I'm not a big fan of these hot days. We'll catch you guys back here tonight. Have a good one. Enjoy your Saturday. Peace out.